welcome to Keyboard Basics. Now this video is going to focus more on the layout of the keyboard and the special keys versus how to actually type. At the end of this video, I will give you a free resource to learn how to touch type. But until then, we'll talk about the layout and how the special keys work and how you would use them for different things on the computer. So what you're seeing in front of you is a standard QWERTY keyboard layout. So if we take a look, why do they call it QWERTY? Because of these keys right here. You've got QWERTY here at the top. So that's all that means is it's a standard QWERTY keyboard. Usually you'd have like 101 keys, something along those lines. This layout is the basic layout that we're going to see at the college on campus. So that's why I chose this picture. So if we take a look, we've got an escape key, and we have these keys up here at the top that are F1, F2, F3. These are called our function key, function, F-U-N-C-T-I-O-N, function keys. So they change their operation depending on what program you are in, with the exception of the F1 key. The F1 key is almost always help. So it doesn't matter what program you're in, if you press F1 on your keyboard, it's going to bring up some sort of a help dialog box that you can either type a question into, or it's going to have answers for you right there. The rest of them change. They change depending on what you're doing. For example, if you're booting the computer up and it's not functioning properly and you want to do some diagnostics, you would press F8. You'd keep pressing it until you get a screen that says, well, how do you want to start it? If you're in Word and you want to launch spell check, you would press F7. Okay. If you want to create an absolute reference in Excel, you would press F4. Now, if you don't know what those things are, don't worry about that. I'm just letting you know that those keys at the top change function depending on what program you are in. Okay. We do have a couple of special character keys here as well, and we'll get to those towards the end. We're gonna start on the left-hand side, and we're gonna work our way around and on the bottom and up, back up again. So I mentioned the escape key. The escape key will get you out of different things. If you're in a program and it's full screen and you just can't see anything to click to get out of it, if you press escape, usually that'll make it smaller. So it'll give you an X at the top or a minimize or something along those lines that will allow you to exit something or escape out of whatever mode you're currently in. Then you have the next key would be the tab key. And so the tab key, what it does is it allows us to move between items, either on a website or in a menu, or if we're in a program like Word or WordPerfect or WordPad, some kind of a word processing type program, it'll allow us to indent our cursor, or it's also called our insertion point. It allows us to indent that insertion point / cursor in a 1/2 of an inch or approximately five characters or 5 spaces. Depending on what program you're in, it will also allow you to move between items, like on a web page. If you're in Excel, if you hit Tab, it allows you to move through different cells. If you are logging into the computers at the college, you type in your username, okay, and then you press the Tab key, and it drops you down to the next box where you can type your password. So Tab has a lot of functions as well. Tab also can be included in keyboard shortcuts, and we're going to talk a little bit about keyboard shortcuts here shortly. So that's the Tab key, and it's right here in the upper left-hand corner, okay? Directly below, we have what's called the caps lock key, and that's exactly what it sounds like. If we click the caps lock key, anytime we press one of these alpha keys, one of these alphabetical keys, A through Z, it will give us a capital letter. So if we just simply press the letter A, it's going to give us a small a. If the caps lock is on and we press A, then it's going to give us a capital A. Now the caps lock only pertains to the alpha keys, these 26 characters right here. That's it. If you have the caps lock set and you press the number 1, you're going to get a number 1. If you have the caps lock set and you press the period, you're going to get a period. You're not going to get the greater than sign. You're not going to get the exclamation mark. Okay, so that's what caps lock does. I'm not a big fan of caps lock. I think it should be taken off the keyboard. Sometimes it's a nuisance, especially being in like a technical support type environment where someone calls and says, oh, my password's not working. Well, usually it's because they have their caps lock on because everything else they do is capital, and so that's why their password's not working, because passwords are case sensitive in most cases. So anyway, be careful with your caps lock. And don't use it if you don't have to. If you do use caps lock, you use caps lock and you've got all these capital letters, that in internet-ese or internet world is considered shouting or yelling at someone. So, you know, that kind of breaches that netiquette, and we'll get to that in another video. It kind of breaches that netiquette as to what is acceptable online and things of that nature. Okay, enough about caps lock. We're going to go on to the shift key, and you'll notice that we have a shift key on the left-hand side and we have a shift key on the right-hand side. So every keyboard will have a shift key on both sides, regardless of the type of keyboard it is. Now, some of the keyboards might have a much smaller shift key on the right-hand side than they do on the left, or they might have very small shift keys. So it just depends on how squished the keyboard is, depending on what type of keyboard it is. If it's a space saver keyboard, or if it's a keyboard that's on a laptop, something along those lines. But you will have a shift on the left and a shift on the right. And the reason we have two shift keys is because we use them alternately. So if we wanted a capital P, okay, we're going to hold the shift on the left side with our left pinky, and then we're going to press the P with our right pinky, okay? And alternately, if we wanted like a capital W, we would depress the shift key with our right pinky and then the W with our left hand. So when we are using shift, we're using the alternate hand of whatever key we're actually pressing. So if we wanted an exclamation mark, we would hold this shift key down and then press the exclamation mark right here. The number 1 is going to give us an exclamation. If we wanted the @ sign, okay, this is a special character. We wanted the @ sign, it's shift and the number 2, and that will give us the @ sign, okay? So that's what the shift keys are, and sometimes the shift keys are used in keyboard shortcuts as well, not as frequently as the next key we're going to talk about, which is the control key. So this is the CTRL, and you're almost always going to have a control key on the left-hand side. You might not have one on the right-hand side. It really depends on the keyboard. Most of the time you do have them, but sometimes you might not. So if you don't have a control key on the right-hand side, it's no big deal. It's just the way the keyboard is laid out, but you're always going to have one on the left. And so what control lets us do, a couple different things. It's an integral part of almost every keyboard shortcut out there. Okay, so keyboard shortcuts allow us to navigate within our system without using our mouse in most cases. Okay. So, and why would we want to do that? Well, what if your mouse isn't working properly? or the battery's dead and you don't have a AA battery laying around the house, you have to go to the store and you still need to get around your computer. You need to have a general understanding of what a keyboard shortcut is and how it can be used for you to be able to navigate around in your computer without having the use of a mouse, okay? I use keyboard shortcuts because it's easier than picking my hand up off the keyboard and finding my mouse and making it go where I want it to go. It just takes a little extra time and I want to get things done quickly, okay? So the control is an integral part, like I said, of keyboard shortcuts, but it will also allow us to select more than one item at a time. And that comes in handy when we're trying to copy items, or we're trying to cut items, or we just want to select something to send it in an email or something along those lines. We can select more than one item by holding the control key down as we're clicking on those items with our mouse, okay? So like I said, you have one on the left, you have on the right, possibly on the right, always on the left. So keyboard shortcuts. So we have a couple of keyboard shortcuts, and keyboard shortcuts are usually printed out as CTRL, which is the abbreviation for control, and then the plus sign, and then whatever key we want to press, or whatever function we want it to do. So we'd have CTRL plus X. You're not actually hitting the plus sign, you're just hitting those two keys at the same time. So you'd hold control down and then you'd press X and then you'd release both of them. And control X is cut. So that would allow you to remove something from a specific location and put it on the clipboard. And so the clipboard is a virtual place on your machine. It's something that you don't see, but it can hold things that you've copied or cut. Or you can actually take a print screen, and we'll get to that towards the end here. So a lot of keyboard shortcuts. Control X is cut, Control C is copy, Control V is paste. Okay, so and if you look at the bottom of the keyboard, you have X, you have C, and you have V. They're right next to one another. So those are pretty easy to remember. Another way to remember them is X is kind of like delete, so it means you're removing it. You're not actually getting rid of it, you're just removing it from its original location. C, copy. Copy starts with a C. And then we have V. And V is kind of that insert sign. Okay, so have you ever edited a document or had someone edit a document for you, or have you gotten a paperback from a teacher and there's been a little V and then they write something that said, you know, you need a period here, or you need a capital letter here, or something else? That's the insert symbol. So if we hold Control and the letter V, it inserts whatever text we have cut or copied previously into the new location. Okay, so X, C, and V, those are very important to remember. And then we have Z, like zebra, Control Z, that's undo. So undo is a really big one too. You might not always have an undo button on whatever program you're in, but if you do something and you lose something, you can do Control and Z and it'll bring it back. I've had quite a few people who've called me over the years and said, oh my gosh, you know, I was writing this email and I just spent 20 minutes composing it, and I did something and it's gone. Okay, so hold Control down and press Z. No, nothing happened. Okay, press Z again. Oh, it's all back. Okay, so you know that's a big one too. And then we have some others. We have Control plus A, that will select everything. Control plus P for Paul or print. We'll bring up a print dialog box. There are quite a few keyboard shortcuts to list. And we'll probably talk about those in another video too. We can use Control S. S is in Sam or save to save a document, and we'll talk about that in another video as well. So again, Control, very, very useful for different keyboard shortcuts. Next key over is this little guy. It kind of looks like we have a window or a flag. And if you're on Windows 7 or Windows Vista, this is what that flag looks like, and it's down here, okay? My window looks a little bit different. I'm running Windows 8 on the machine that I'm actually recording this on. So there are some newer keyboards that have this actual symbol, but you can tell its likeness, okay? And what that means is if I press that key on my keyboard, I'm going to see my start menu. And with Windows 8, if you don't have Windows 8, that's fine. I'm going to show you what the start menu looks like on Windows 8. If I press that key one time, this is my start menu. Okay, so it says start up here at the top, right here, okay? So this is my start menu. Your start menu on campus is actually going to be the Windows 7 start menu. Okay, so on the left-hand side, you're going to have a list of things, and on the right-hand side, you're going to have a list of things. Mine has a grouping of tiles, and that's the big change they made with Windows 8. So I'm going to go back to the desktop so we can go back to our picture. So that button will bring that start menu up. Okay, so go ahead and try that, and you can see, and you can press it again, and the start menu goes away, but the video will keep playing, or it should. Once you've done that and taken it away, you can see how it'll pop up and it'll go away. It'll pop up and go away. So if you don't have your mouse and you need to get into your start menu, then you can press that key. And then once you're in your start menu, you can use your tab key to switch between the different items. Once you hit the item that you need, it's highlighted, you can then press the enter key. So here's the enter key. Okay, and we're gonna get to that too. So just giving you a couple of different scenarios that you might use a keyboard shortcut versus using a mouse. Okay, then we have the Alt key, and the Alt key it kind of does something like the Control key, but not quite. You don't use the Alt key nearly as frequently as you do the CTRL button. Sometimes they are used together, so we could do Control, Alt, and Delete, okay, as a keyboard shortcut sequence, okay, and that would bring up the window that says, do you want to change your password? Do you want to start the task manager? Do you want to shut it down? Okay, so in older versions of Windows, Control-Alt-Delete would bring up a box and it would say you shut down. That's what people use to shut their machine down if it was locked up or something along those lines. So Alt F4 will close the current program that you have open. Alt F will bring up the file menu. So if I come over here, I'm in this program and I hit Alt and F, it brings up this file menu right here. Okay, so I can delete this file, this picture file, I can make a copy, I could exit. Okay, so that's what the Alt F did. If I wanted to do P, see how this is underlined? So we have a P here, and we have an E, and we have a U. So if I do Alt P, okay, I get the options for print and order prints. Now, if I did Control P, it's going to bring up this print dialog box for me, okay? So you can see the difference between Control and between Alt. I'm going to just go ahead and close that. This long bar here, this is our space bar, and we would press that to place a space between characters or between words. Okay, however many times you press that is however many spaces you'll have on your document or wherever you're at. Then we see another Alt key, okay? We see another Windows key. Now you may or may not see this Windows key on every keyboard. Just again, it depends on the layout. And then we have this button right here. This is our right click key. And what that means is, remember in an older video where we talked about right click, and when we right click we get what's called a contextual menu. The contextual menu has options on it pertaining to whatever item you right clicked on. So every contextual menu is going to be a little bit different from another one. So here I have this Windows photo viewer with the keyboard picture up, and it's active. I can tell it's active here. And I'm going to hit that button. And when I do that, I'm going to get this menu. And this is my right click menu. If I had actually used the right click on my mouse, I would have popped this menu up. So it's asking me, do I want to open this picture in a program where I can actually alter it? Okay, so Paint or Picasa, Power DVD. I could set this picture as my background, and that would be kind of boring. I don't think I would want a keyboard picture as my background, but you have the option because it is a picture. We can open the file location. So I see the picture, but I'm not exactly sure where it's stored, so I can tell it to open the file location, and it will actually open that file location for me. So if I do that, so here I do, it went on my other screen, so I'm going to bring it over here. So it's here, it opened up the file location, and it tells me that it's in pictures and keyboard pictures, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close that. We don't need that. But see, you see how that worked. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And then I could rotate the picture left or right, or I could copy it or delete it. Or I could look at the properties. So again, we have the key right here on our keyboard that gives us that right click. If our mouse isn't working properly, or if you just don't want to pick your hand up off of the keyboard to find your mouse to do the things that you want to do, okay? We have the shift key. Remember, we have the 2 shift keys. This is the enter key, okay? So the enter key will go ahead and activate whatever we're telling it to do. It's telling it, yes, this is what we want. So when we double click on something, that's like pressing the enter key. So earlier I had said if we press this and bring up our start menu, I'm going to go ahead and do that. You don't have to, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. If I'm going to click this, it's going to bring my start menu up. Now I can use my tab key, and as I use my tab key, you'll notice things are highlighted. See, I've got this white box around this. Got this white box now. Now I'm hitting tab. Now my desktop is active. Now if I want to go ahead and access my desktop, I can press the enter key, and it's like telling it, yes, this is what we want. Enter. Just go. It's saying basically go there. Okay, so that's what the enter key does. If we're in a program, the enter key, like Word, if we're in Word and we hit enter, it's going to give us another paragraph. It's going to end one paragraph and start a new paragraph. It's going to give us a new line. We do have 2 enter keys. We have this enter key, and we have the enter key over here on the keypad. So, and that's basically, we can go ahead and type, and or enter our numbers, excuse me, and then hit this enter versus lifting our hand up and bringing it over here to hit enter. Okay, so that's why we have 2 of them. Then we have what's called our backspace key. And the backspace key is just what it sounds like. It actually moves our cursor 1 space back to the left, and it will delete anything that is before it. Okay, so here I'll go into Word. I'm going to go ahead and click Word, and I'm going to type a sentence. I'm going to say, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country. I did that with no typing mistakes. I'm pretty proud of myself. Okay, so if I come over here and I click, this is my cursor, right? My cursor, my insertion point. Okay, so it's flashing. And if I hit the backspace button, it's going to move my cursor 1 space to the left, and it's going to erase the letter E. So I'm going to do that. Here we go. I hit it 1 time, and it erased the letter E. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put the E back in. And if I just wanted to move my cursor versus using the backspace and getting rid of things, I could use the arrow keys. So if we come back over here, I have these arrow keys, right? So if I use the arrow key to the left, it actually moves the cursor without, can you hear me clicking? Without getting rid of anything. I could use the arrow key to the right, okay? I'm going to go ahead and hit enter right here. It gives me another line. So I'll say the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy little puppy. Okay, I didn't get through that without any typing mistakes, but that's okay. So here, now I have 2 lines. I can use my up arrow and it brings me up a line. I could use my down arrow and it brings me down a line. So there we've just covered quite a few keys. So we have the backspace key that we covered, and we covered the arrow key. So we can navigate with our arrow keys as well. Now we have delete as well over here. So here's delete. It's a much smaller key. It's in this little six key section. Now it could look a little different. I've seen them look, let's see if we come over here, we've got this one. This is actually without a number pad and it looks kind of the same. But if we come over here to this one, that 6 key section is over here. So we have delete way up here at the top, and then we have home and page up and page down and end. Let's go back and take a look at this one again. So we have insert, okay, that's another one. Delete, home, end, page up, page down. So delete and backspace are somewhat similar. The big distinction with backspace and delete is the location of your cursor or your insertion point. Okay, so we're going to come back over here to Word. And so here I've got my insertion point in front of the O in over. And I want to get rid of that word over. Now, if I press the backspace, it's going to move my cursor to the left, okay, and it's going to start getting rid of the word jumped. I don't want that. I can either move my cursor to do that, or if I wanted to get rid of the word over, like I said, we'd hit the delete key, okay? So it depends on where your cursor's at. So if the text or the characters or the spacing that you want to remove is on the left side of that flashing cursor, we're going to press the backspace key. If the characters or the text or the spacing that you want to remove is on the right side of that that flashing cursor. We don't want a cursing flasher, right? Anyway, if it's on the right hand side of that flashing cursor, we're going to hit the delete key, and it'll do the same thing. It will get rid of one character every time we press it. If we hold it down, it will delete quite a few characters at the same time. It'll just keep going in succession, okay? So that's a big difference between backspace and delete. So let's come back over here. All right, so a couple more keys. We have the insert key, okay? Insert isn't as big of a deal as it used to be. You'll notice here that we have the backspace key, and then we have the insert key right here. What I always found was people would type, and they'd reach their finger up to grab that backspace key, and inadvertently they would hit the insert key. So when you do that, there's two different functions. So the insert key is either on or it's off, okay? So by default, it is off, which all default means is that is the preset setting for that specific key. So when it is off, when we're typing, it pushes, as we type, the insertion point pushes the text to the right, okay? So if I come over here and I want to insert a word between jumped over, I would simply go ahead, jumped over, let's just put any word there. It's not going to make any sense, but we're going to put big, okay? So if I type big, it moves everything to the right and doesn't overwrite anything, okay? But if I click the insert key, let's go ahead and put it right here in front of over, and I'm going to press my insert key, and then I'm going to type. And as I'm typing, you can see that it is keying over the word over, okay? So as I type, it'll just insert the characters on top of what was already there, okay? So it just replaces that text. So I've had people call me and they're like, I don't know what to do. I'm putting these words in between, but it's getting rid of the other words. And it's because the insert has actually been turned on, okay? So we can turn that back off if I click the insert key again, and I say jumped over, and you can see now that it's no longer overwriting. Again, it doesn't make any sense, and that's fine. I just wanted to show you, I wanted to illustrate to you how that works, okay? Go back to our picture here. So we've talked about the insert, we've talked about the delete. The home key will take you to the beginning of a document. If we do Control plus Home, it takes us to the beginning of a document. If we just simply press Home, it takes us to the beginning of the sentence or the beginning of the paragraph, depending on where we're at. End is the same thing. So if I hit Control and End, it takes me to the very end of my document or the end of a website. If I just press End, it takes me to the end of the paragraph or the end of the sentence, depending on where I'm at. Page Up, the same thing. If we do Page Up, it takes us a page up from where we were at. If I hit Page Down, it takes us a page down. And then we have the numlock key right here. So keyboards are a little different. Most keyboards have the alpha keys over here and the special characters, and then they have a number pad over here. And so if the numlock is turned on, then you can use these keys and it'll put numbers up there. If the numlock has been turned off, then these keys won't work. So they used to be a really big thing on the laptop keyboards because you would see the numbers on these keys, okay? If you had the numlock turned on, then the numbers would come up versus the letters. Still, if you're having issues with your number pad, make sure your numlock is on. Okay. Sometimes there's a light that shows you that something is lit. Either your caps lock is on or your num lock is on, or sometimes you might see something pop up on your screen that tells you that. Finally, the last key we're going to take a look at is the print screen key. Okay. So here we have a print screen key, and sometimes it can be abbreviated. I think the ones at the college actually say PRN SCR. I think mine says actually print screen. I'm going to show you a couple of others. So if I come over here and click this one, we have a PRTSC, that's print screen, okay? And then if we come over here and take a look at this one, we have PRNTSCRN, so that would be our print screen. So, okay, what does print screen do? Print screen takes a picture of our desktop. So whatever is currently on your desktop, you can take a picture of. So let's say you're on the phone with technical support, and you're like, I don't know how to describe it. So the guy or the gal says, oh, well, can you take a print screen and send me an email? This is what they're talking about. So basically, you press the Control, you hold the Control and press the print screen key, all right? Then it takes a picture. You don't see it. You don't see anything happen. But if you go into Word or you go into Paint, you can paste that. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to press print screen. I'm going to hold CTRL and press print screen. I didn't see anything happen. Nothing. But if I come over here to Paint, I can start Paint, and then I can press the paste. Here is the keyboard picture that we've been looking at. And you'll notice here that I've got a scroll. If I scroll over, you can see. Now this is my whole keyboard, or my whole desktop, because I've got two screens. I have two screens on my computer. It just makes it easier when I'm doing things like this. So that's why it's so big. I can cut it down if I want or what have you. But it takes a picture of everything that's on your desktop, and then you can paste it into Paint, or you can paste it into Word, and then you can send it off to whomever needs it. So you may have instructors that say, okay, complete these steps. I know I do this in my computer class. Complete these steps, and then take a print screen of what's on your screen so that I can grade to make sure that you did those steps properly. So that's what they're talking about. They want you to take a print screen, so it's CTRL and the print screen button, and then they want you to paste it someplace and save it, and we'll talk about saving later, and they want you to save it and then go ahead and send it to them, okay? So we're going to go ahead and exit out of this one. I'm not going to save it because I don't need to save it. One more button that we didn't talk about because it's not on this keyboard. Okay, we don't need it on this keyboard. This is a full keyboard. We have the function keys, we have our special character keys, we have our alpha keys, we have our number keys. But when we start reducing the size of our keyboards, we have to make concessions. We have to have keys perform double duty versus just one function. And that's usually in the case of a smaller keyboard that we're trying, a space saver keyboard, okay, or something like a a laptop keyboard. So here I'm going to take a look. This third picture is a laptop keyboard. I do believe it's a Dell keyboard. So if we take a look here, it's much smaller. You notice there is not a number key pad over here. We do have function keys, but they have other pictures on them as well. So if I come over here and take a look, where we didn't have the FN key on the last keyboard layout that we were looking at, we do have one on this keyboard, and you'll notice that it's a different color. So I have FN, and it's blue, and then I've got F1, F2, F3, F4. Remember we said that the function keys, the F1, F2, F3, they change depending on the functionality or the program that you're in. They change functionality depending on the program that we are in. So if I hold the FN key down and then press F1, help is going to come up. Okay, so that's what that's saying is this color coding, this blue FN key is color coded to the blue function keys at the top. Now it could be the other way around. You could see the blue FN key and then see these little pictures in that same color. So it just depends on how the keyboard is laid out. If we don't hold the FN key down and we press this key, the F2, it's going to turn our wireless on and turn our wireless off. Okay, so if we press it once, it turns it off. If we press it again, it turns it on, or vice versa. If it was off, it turns it on. If it was on, it turns it off. If we don't press FN and we click this key right here, this speaker with the X on it, we're going to mute the sound on our laptop. Okay, so sometimes we have to bunch keys up. And then we have to make them perform double duties, and we may have an FN key to do that. If we take a look at this first keyboard that we were looking at, see this one? Oh, here we go. Again, with the Windows key, see the little icon here? It looks very similar to the one I have down here in the lower left-hand corner, right? And then we have an FN key. Now, this is where the right-click key is at on the keyboard that we were looking at, and it's been replaced with an FN key instead, and I don't see a right-click key replacement. Now, this is not color-coded. This is white, and all of the pictures and everything is white on the keys, so I don't know if this would be FN for 1X or if it would be FN for F1. My inclination is to think that because this is a second function and the second function keys are at the top, my guess would be that if I hold FN down, it's going to, give me the F1 function or the F2 function versus the 1X or the 2X. That's what my inclination would be, being that this is a function key and it would kind of hold true to like the shift. Okay, so if we hold shift, we get the exclamation. If we hold function, we'd get the F1. Okay, and you notice we don't have a number pad here, but we do have our number keys. So we've basically gone around the entire layout of our keyboard now, and we've got a couple other keys up here. We have scroll, lock, and pause. We don't use scroll lock anymore. I don't even know why it's still there. Most programs don't even see it anymore. Other than that, pretty much we've gone over everything. I was going to give you a resource for free typing, and let me just do that over here. Just a second, and I will pull this over. Here we go. So if I come over here and I type typing.com, pretty hard website address to remember. Up here in the address box, we come to this free website, and we can click the typing lessons button, this orangey yellow button. And then if you wanted to keep track of your progress, which I would highly suggest, you can sign up for free. Doesn't cost anything. You sign up for free, and you can create a username and provide an email address and put your password in twice and then tell it that you want to create the account. Or If you already have a login with Google, so you have some sort of a Gmail address, you can click right here and it will come up to choose an account, or if you only have one account, it'll come up with, I have multiple, so I'm going to choose my personal account here. If you don't already have this set up like that, you'd have to type it in. So now it says, okay, you might get something that says we want to be able to access your account, and they only want to access it to log you in. So you should go ahead and do that. So now, if we come over here, we have lessons. If you're a beginner, you should probably start with beginner. You tell it to begin, and then you've got all of these lessons here under the beginner portion, okay? And it will keep track of your progress. And then once you get through all of these, then you can go to intermediate and so on and so forth. And, you know, this is going to help you with your touch typing. You'll learn about the home row. You'll learn about which fingers are supposed to press which keys. And that could help you in your school career as well, because inevitably you're going to have to type papers, and you're going to have to use the computer for your online learning and things of that nature. So this is just, I think this is just a good way to start for you. So yes, I would definitely do that. If you have any questions, make sure that you contact your instructor. And as always, thank you for joining me for Keyboard Basics, and have a wonderful day.